Hello, everyone, and welcome back to LCS Challengers League. First series of the day is done 2-0. And it was a great time to watch our two provisional teams, and now we're going to be heading over to watch CLG Faith try and take on the likes of Evil Genius's Challengers. And I feel like this should be a lot of fun. So I'm excited for Evil Genius's Challengers maybe down the line. So it's still up in the air with how this will go going up against CLG Faith Resurrex.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right? Because both of these teams are struggling from the same issue, and that's substitutions, right? For CLG Faith, they had that whole issue that came up that pushed Sketch into the marksman role, brought Plux into the support. Evil Genius's Challengers, Ryoma and King having visa issues, Robbie Bob and mobility. So, it's not the greatest looks, but they also weren't dealt the best hand. We're not seeing these rosters at their full strength yet.
Especially to Cubby, this Evil Geniuses roster, when it is at full strength, should be a completely different case. I mean, the roster looks stacked. It's just the visa issues. It's always the visa issues.
Always.
Yeah, the Oceanic ones are tough, this split. And it is something that we're looking forward to. But also, given that each team is playing with subs, it actually does give us a decent opportunity to kind of explore what it's like playing with subs. Kind of the expectations that we have for these players that are stepping up and playing at the highest level of play they may have participated at in their entire career, and kind of where they can go from here.
Yeah, and I mean, it is learning about the mistakes. It was something we touched upon in our last series with just, all right, there is going to be bumps in the road. There is going to be mistakes. And every week in Challengers, especially when you are looking at some of our teams as well, being able to learn from these mistakes, I mean, this is a developmental league. This is what it's about. And I know CLG Faith, there was a couple of bumps that we've had already just in terms of play, but hopefully that's something they could have adapted to Resurrex and come out here as a bit of a different look.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the week 1 play coming out from CLG Faith. They had that game where they threw game 1 over at the Dragon. Those are things where it's like this decision making for certain plays is going to be worked on a lot, is going to be evaluated a lot, is going to take some time to sort of mold and shape and get better as time goes on. But CLG Faith, that's the one thing. They have a lot of coaching infrastructure to make that process really start to actuate.
Yeah, and heading on over into our CLG Faith roster, we've already talked about the fact that there is subs. So let's dive in a little bit deeper, Cubby, with what that means, heading into just the whole roster that we have. As you already touched on, it is Sketch heading into that AD role as opposed to support.
Yeah, and I know from talking with Sketch before this split started, he literally had 3 days to prep for playing marksman again. Now, of course, Sketch has competed as a marksman in the past for EGP, for AoE this past split, but that's a really tough ask for anyone. He was in the middle of a role swap. He was going to play support. It was something that I was really looking forward to. I think his personality and what he brings to the team really does actually fit the role of support. And he has hands, which is always nice at the support role. People like Peter Dunn, someone that worked with him previously, was really excited about his role swap. As Sketch was pretty excited himself, but sometimes you got to do what's best for the team. So him reuniting with Plux was the best solution that CLG Faith could have while they look for a new marksman. And Sketch has been doing his best. That's not always perfect, but being dealt a tough hand, he is trying to, be serviceable in the bot lane, and CLG Faith have at least picked up 1 game so far in this season.
Now, looking over at the Evil Geniuses roster, you start looking at the first half of it, and I mean, when the roster is complete, it should be really strong. I mean, Shaden is someone we talked about a lot last year, Resurrex, so as well improving. It's just, when you have the subs in, it's hard to really get that mesh and be able to form to what the team was built to do.
Yeah, that being said, though, we are still seeing a lot of highlights out of Shaden nonetheless, even with the struggles they're having. Shaden, we had touted as one of our better prospects last year on the season. Definitely lived up to a lot of that promise. Now we're looking for the next step. And even with this rough hand of having so many substitutes, both in your mid lane, both in your marksman role, we're still seeing this early pathing, this early playmaking that we know out of Shaden.
I mean, I feel like we expected that Shaden was going to be someone of promise going into here, but in today's series, we are just going to be looking back at the bot lane, looking at these ADs, Cubby, and looking for the promise they can show, because this is an opportunity for them to show what they've got in this type of league.
It's really tough because, again, like mobility, the highest level he's played at would be the equivalent to NACL OQs. Sketch, was in a role swap and now had to go back to marksman. And these players are somewhat out of practice. Sketch is out of practice. Mobility is playing at the highest level he has. And we've seen a couple of decent moments, but again, these are players that we have different expectations for, and definitely players that, have struggled a little bit. Like we saw Mobility getting dove by C9. That was tough, and it was a good game plan from C9. But, part of Challengers League and what makes this fun for us is seeing how these players grow. And when you have someone that is subbing in at AD in each Sketch Mobility, that is an opportunity for them to grow, especially for Mobility. Again, he's a collegiate marksman right now. Like, what he can learn and take back to his team could really change how their season goes. And, props to him. Like, he's drawing Jhin bans every game for a reason, right? He had a really big Jhin game in his debut. So I think that, still taking away some of the positives from these players and kind of seeing where they can go, but also recognizing that, hey, you know what? We do have different expectations given their experience, and that's okay.
When you're dealt a less than ideal hand, it's all about how you can really adapt and really just overcome that, which will be interesting to see how that goes into this series. It would be fantastic if we could see one of them popping off. That's what I'm hoping for. We always got to root for that underdog. I feel a little bit bad for them, but no, I want to be able to see what they can do in this series when, we're all watching and seeing what they can do. It's time for the draft, though. I'm going to leave you to do it, and I'll catch up with you later.
All right, take care, and of course, thank you, Sierra. As we head into the draft of our first game, I want to put our attention onto something that we didn't talk about a little bit too much, and that's Serenok versus Robbie-Bob. This is something that's a little bit of a classic matchup we've seen so many times during the, in the collegiate space, in both C-LOL, Harrisburg Invitational, pretty much anything revolving around that.
This was the C-LOL final for mid-lane matchups. So the fact that, they're going toe-to-toe here is kind of fun. I know that I also talked to Robbie-Bob about what it's been like, just kind of subbing in for this team, him being the other sub. And he said, what, it is kind of tough for everyone, but the teams made me feel really welcome. They pushed me to be better. And the one thing that he really wants fans to walk away with is the fact that I feel like I've gotten better from week 1 to week 2. This is the last week, or the last week we're going to see Robbie-Bob as Ryoma is going to be playing moving forward. So hope that we get to see Robbie-Bob have a few more instances where he's able to put his best foot forward and might be able to do so against a familiar opponent today.
It's just so weird seeing Robbie-Bob without Kitsuo, though. That's the only thing that gets to me. The old teammate, old mid-jungle duo from University of St. Thomas. By the way, if you see me constantly touching my mustache, it's because one of the hairs is going upward into my nose, and for some reason I just can't settle it right now, Cubby. Yeah, I'm fighting with my mustache at the moment, so I need you to fight the draft for me.
Wow, this is wow! I wasn't expecting you to share that. I do appreciate how open you are with me, and you have faith in me to kind of share that. I appreciate that very much.
We've gone through.
Yeah, we've seen some stuff, but at the moment, I was teasing the Jhin pick. I gotta say, Ashe was taken by CLG Faith. That is a little bit of a deny from Smoothie as well, who has played Ashe a little bit in this early season. But I would not be surprised if we see Mobility grab Jhin. It is his best champion. It's something that can technically maybe be flexed to the support role. And we'll see. As we do have the Heimer being denied from that Ashe pairing. We'll see if they wrap it up with the Jhin pick here.
Seems like that is where their head is. Looking to put Mobility onto that champion. Put him in as much comfort as possible. Oh, might not be the case here. I had talks with the old Winthrop coach about Mobility when he was first brought on Winthrop, and the general consensus was super mechanical ADC, but also incredibly raw when it comes to the game and playstyle. This lock-in for Mobility will be Varus. I'm not going to play to that Jhin. We'll have a Varus Heimer bot lane.
Again, all of Mobility's competitive experience comes in the last 7 months. And it's all been, fighting in OQs or playing C-LOL. So this is a huge opportunity for him to sub in for this team, and one that hopefully he's making the most out of. I know that he is no longer at Winthrop. He's actually flew to LA to compete at the EG facility this week. So hopefully that pays off with a little bit of ping diff here in favor of Mobility, as he's going to not be busting out his Jhin, but instead the Varus.
Varus Heimer into the Ashe and Jhin that we'll have in the bot side for CLG Faith. Now, for both of these teams, I am liking it when you have at least more mobility to play towards your junglers, because I feel like that's where we've gotten at least more of the highlights for the bot lanes of both of these squads.
I do want to kind of hop on that, but I also want to recognize real quick that we have a Syndra picked. Now, Robbie-Bob loves Victor. Victor, he can be controlled a little bit by Ashe, Jhin, and Syndra, but in isolation, Victor versus Syndra is an okay matchup for Victor. So I am curious if we see that. With that said, Sejuani for Shaden tells me they're going to be looking at melee solo laners. So Kindred, a couple of junglers, going to probably be taken away that Sejuani doesn't like to face. And then some melee picks for CLG Faith that Robbie Bob can play also should be denied.
And could be pretty good because Soul has been one of those more developing players over onto that top side. Seeing the pairing alongside with Shaden, I would like to see some synergy over for that top side to make the Sejuani really start to shine out and give Soul some agency onto that top lane. Next man comes through, it's going to be Jax.
Okay, I was going to bring up Jax. I was kind of curious about this ban. I think that CLG Faith should take away Galio or Camille here. I think that you can run Galio into Syndra, and Galio against Syndra, Jhin, Ashe, if you have a way to get on them, Galio is very good against all those squishy champions. Can just control everyone, make sure the rest of your team can do the damage. And is a melee that can synergize with Sejuani. So it's not a big damage mid laner, but it is one that does bring a lot of utility. A CLG Faith, they do wait out on the last ban. It is Renekton, that is another counter to Camille. I'm curious now if we see a Galio picked up for Robbie Bob. He has already played it in Challengers. Yeah, and we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, that is one way to deal with all the squishy members of CLG Faith.
Deal with the squishy members and give such a menacing team fight and dive. And as you said it, Cubby, they are hovering it for the time being. I do expect this to be a lock-in. This would be the third time that Robbie Bob has pulled this on the Rift for Challengers League.
All right, so this is also funny because Bejani, also a very, very good Camille player in the top lane. So I am curious now if they actually deny the Camille to take away that combo.
See right now, I mean, next two picks are going to come out from CLG Faith, so we'll have that unveiled. Lots of squishiness, lots of damage picked out for CLG Faith. Are they going to lean more into that skirmish, or will they try and develop a front line? Going over to the Kayn. The Kayn's going to get locked in for NXI.
I mean, Kayn, you can deal with Galio rather well. I think Red Kayn brings a lot of value as you're expecting a melee top laner as well. I will say, if Camille's taken here, I wonder if we get a Gangplank from Soul. I think the GP has insane value with what we're looking at right now if they want to deny the Camille. If not, GP is actually an okay pick here for Bejani as well, if he doesn't want to take it.
All right.
Not going to be a Camille deny.
Alluding to it earlier, Camille's going to get locked in. That's going over towards the top side for Bejani. What's the final pick now for EGC? Hurry, Cubby.
I want to see GP, but the only other response I think that I would really like is something like Aurelia. Oh, okay. No, never mind. It's going to be the flex. They're going to put Sejuani in the top side going up against the Camille. And they're going to put Shaden on that Viego, the one that he solo carried the game with yesterday. He has a lot of support around him again. We'll see if Shaden can do it in this one.
I totally believe it. A lot of these early games that Shaden has been playing has been absolutely amazing. You know, throw you back to that game against Team Liquid first. He shut down City at every angle he possibly could. NXI is going to have a lot to deal with in depending on where Shaden chooses to path.
I think that Shaden, it still should be working your way towards bot. With that said, I think that when you have Sejuani, you want to play towards the Sejuani. And there is an Ignite for Soul on the top side. Sejuani Viego is very, very strong. Very tough for even a Camille to deal with. So I am going to be really curious if EG does actually end up attacking the top side. We've seen the majority of junglers work their way bot. That is an option, though, for him in this game. Or you can just brawl. Like, Galio has move, so you could just go find Kayn and get up in his face.
Why don't we just go diving? EGC, just...
Go Splunking.
Find a lane, go to bot... No, let's just go to bot lane and go spelunking down there.
Yeah, there we go.
I like it. Everyone in EGC can do it. Galio will get Viego, we'll get the whole party.
Ooh. We have a Ghost for Plux. That's interesting. Conqueror for the Kayn does tell me it's going to be a red Kayn. Makes a lot of sense going into the melee heavy comp. But I want to see, again, so with a lot of these ranged bot lane matchups, I think it's really important how you enter the lane. As right now, we do see Heimer getting set up, but also you can burn summoner spells as like very early on to find health bar advantages level 1 and 2. And when junglers are working their way bot, that making the lane volatile can very oftentimes play in your favor if you feel like you have the winning side. As that is something I will be looking out for, especially on the side of CLG, as it looks like Kayn will be working his way bot, whereas Shaden actually going to work towards that Sejuani lane.
Do you think that's the right play overall for Shaden? Now, I know Viego, Sejuani, get the melees, works pretty well for that top side if we want to go for the gank, but I think the volatility, and as we've highlighted, there is a little bit more weak side for both of these squads in the bottom lane. I do have an itch that you want to play at least towards there a bit more.
I actually think that making Camille useless could be really, really good for the side of EG. I think there are two options here where Shaden starts on red, and then you invade Kayn at his red, or you start this side, and then you go gank the Sejuani lane. So good to see EG recognizing at least one of those. As you can also see Robbie Bob with that Galio, so much push in the early game. He's going to utilize that to get a nice ward down in the Raptors, the most valuable camp for Kayn.
It's always fun when you get to free up this Galio. Especially when level 6 comes along, the dive potential, the threat potential that you always have with this Galio in the back pocket will be there. I mean, Robbie Bob worked a lot with Kitsuo, someone I was highlighting earlier. Shaden plays aggressively as well, so does Kitsuo to some extent, so I would like to see them link up a little bit and potentially set up some of the dives later on into this game.
Definitely something to look out for with Galio. When you sack those waves, so important. As at the moment, we'll see how much Soul can contest. As Bejani, nice grass trade there. Of course, with the Sejuani, you're going to be looking to make sure that those Qs, you can always just Q auto to get a free grasp. It's not all bad. As at the moment, Soul playing very cautiously in this lane and trying to keep the wave here for when we have Viego working his way towards top. And quite a little sneaky little scatter there from Serenak. Cannon Minion goes wide for Galio.
And lots of priority coming out for CLG Faith on this bottom side. At the same time that NXI is starting to finish the clear, going for the full clear, red buff going to be taken away. Opposite side of things, same thing for Shaden, posturing towards that end, but instead just going to finish up those last camps. And we'll see where those junglers look to put their attention immediately after.
That's going to be a full clear here for Shaden, but again, on the top side, you can stack up that passive really quickly with the Sejuani and Viegos, so I want to see him get involved. You can see Bejani already looking at the crab. He's kind of stiffing it out, but that wave's in a terrible spot for Bejani. Great setup here from EG, Soul, and Shaden. Here we go.
Yeah, gang coming in.
Oh, well played.
Ooh, Bejani. Okay, on the buffer, will escape with ease.
We did say he was known for his Camille play a little bit. Good to see some of that there. Very well done by Bejani as he gets himself out of a terrible situation.
Curious to see if Shaden goes for the double. No ward placed by Bejani right now. Does get that up at the very moment as Shaden finishes off that scuttle. Shaden's still visiting up towards that end. At the same time, NXI is trying to put his attention there, but now Shaden's going to realize, yep, this is warded. Oh!
They still win the 2v2.
Disrespectful.
They do win this 2v2 if they want it.
All right, NXI going forward.
Die, really?
More damage onto Shaden and Soul. Gets him down to about half health off of Interrupt on the recall.
I guess they don't win the 2v2. Well played here from CLG Faith. Is NXI going to make sure that this wave is A-okay for the side of Camille and actually force Shaden to cancel his base yet again in case there is a dive. This is a situation where Robbie Bob on the Galio having moved could be very advantageous, but will not be the case.
Still setting up here, Robbie Bob. Pivoting away, but not exactly committing to it, as the dive is not going to be attempted out of CLG Faith. We'll just take the reset for the time being as CLG look for their next point of attack, and, you know, they're not exactly suffering from any lack of decision. I mean, both lanes shoved in, both in the mid and bottom.
Important note here that Shaden did swamp up his jungle pathing, so he's actually going to be clearing towards the bot side now. After that time in the top side. So now we will see if after Mobility and Smoothie are able to get a base, if they can get anything done bot.
Both junglers pathing towards the bottom lane. First dragon that's going to be up right now will be the Cloud Drake. We're only 5 minutes in, gold staying relatively even. Nothing too fast going on in the early game of this. I'm still waiting for more of that bot lane volatility to start to spike through. Shaden now pathing on that spot at the same time that we got the recalls coming out for both bot lane duos.
As Shaden wrapping up this Gromp might be able to get into this bot lane, but actually going to take another reset, so try and get his items, and this does open up another timer on the top side as Bejani will be slow pushing this wave into Soul. Again, I think overall, like the landscape of this game, I do think that it, again, is going to be a must fight at Herald for EG. Sejuani Viego, very strong around Herald, especially when Galio hits level 6. That is something that CLG Faith will have to be careful with navigating, but with Shaden taking that base, going back to the top side, NXI figures it's time to do the dragon, and we'll take it successfully on the side of CLG Faith.
Quick pickup coming up for CLG Faith. Next dragon. Up in 5 minutes. This pick does go through. Nothing really much to happen in the early stages of the game. I'm waiting for Shaden's attack to come through. They are posturing over towards this top side more and more.
Yeah.
Robbie Bob level 7 now, so he does have the heroic entrance.
It's going to be top crab, as mobility has a decent trade. Nice sidestep there. But after this top crab, we'll see if Shaden actually looks at the blue buff of NXI. Should know that NXI does start on the top side. If not, then he could look towards top lane itself. Bejani does have a control ward there. It is about to get walked over here by Shaden.
Shaden posturing up towards the top side, but Bejani always aware, always warded up, always has that vision. It slows down Shaden a bit here, which means Shaden's not going to have the same situation of just outright stealing away that blue buff. Now it's going to be contested by NXI.
Props to Smoothie here. Actually traded really nicely with Plux on the retreat. Ashe being that low does give a little bit of respite here towards mobility. As that bounce grenade still finds the spot. That hurts. But it will be a reset from the Ashe and from the CLG Faith bot side right in time for this Herald.
Herald coming up. Shaden into that direction. Curtain calls into the bot lane. Mobility. Mobility, you gotta step away. Mobility just eats 3 in a row. And Sketch Dreams gets a kill in the bot lane. First blood for CLG. It's all right, Cubby. It's all right.
Both flashes are up. There's a Heimer turret just trying to be dropped. It feels bad. It makes me sad, Desrux.
You know,
I like to see moments like that.
Both of these bot lanes have their highlights, they have their lowlights, and that was a low light.
Yeah, it happens. On the bright side, for EG, they do drop someone bot, but it is a clean Herald take. As COG, the bot lane reset and bears no fruit. And it will be a return to the map state. I still think it is important, though, for EG. You got to get this Viego rolling somehow. I still think Sejuani Galio, the top side, is the way that you can do that. Props to Bejani has been playing this matchup out very well, though. It made it very difficult for Viego to get that first move. Oh, he's got no smite. This could be hairy.
Yeah, Shaden.
Wait, he's in trouble.
Flux?
Flux? No flash
yeah,
here,
cornered right there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're flashing over the wall, but Robbie Bob's not too far off. Shaden will follow him through. Now, Robbie Bob, double taunt, lots of damage onto NXI. Shaden not too far off. Unleash power doesn't do too much to Robbie Bob, who takes it on the chin.
I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see the bouncing grenade out of Smoothie. But with that said, Shaden, he's going to take that small lead for himself. That is the first kill onto the Viego. That's very important. Will lead to a crab. Not able to deny any more of NXI's camps, but still Shaden off to the races here. Keep in mind that last time he had Viego, he did have an 11-kill game as he carried EG with that Viego comp to victory. And now Shaden going to look to get feisty here again.
When Shaden gets going, it's very, very much hard to stop him. You know, a lot of the early play that we saw from Shaden when he first showed up in what was it, Cloud9 Academy, was just playing towards the top side and trying to find whatever advantages he could there. I gotta hold that thought because here comes the fight over in the bot lane. NXI looking to set up, going after Smoothie. Smoothie takes down Plux. Smoothie walks away and NXI cannot chase him down.
Oh, Smoothie, man. I really feel good for Smoothie. He was playing remote all of last split, and we talked to him yesterday after they won game 2, and he was like, you know, I feel a lot better about my play, the Korean boot camp, if I could have some of my hands back. And Smoothie with the Heimerdinger, really well done on his part.
And we are not done because Shaden is setting up for this bot lane, wants to grab Sketch, can't shove in the wave fast enough, can't crash that wave. Going to be a little bit too hard to get that dive going through.
Shaden's still hovering. He doesn't want any of his own camps. He wants NXI's. His Plux will spot out the red buff being taken. NXI, though, sent back to base. This will be all Shaden as, again, Shaden, EG, they feel like they have the best prospect in Challengers in Shaden. And Shaden on this Viego is going to be trying to carry this game once again. Fun to see him. Again, rank 1, rank 2 simultaneously in NA. This guy is very talented as a player, and this comp set up for him to carry.
That's the point I was going to get to earlier. You know, last split was that first chapter out of Shaden. Shaden did pretty well on that display. Now, in this next step of development, kind of taking this more vocal team leader role with a lot of the plays that Shaden's setting up.
And again, Smoothie, I mean, he connects every single one of those empowered rockets. He even steps up to take the auto attack from, or take the auto attack on the Plux, trades a turret shot for it, but is able to get out with the flash. Really well done, man.
Well, there, that experience coming through from Smoothie. Very last second, slides out now. Robbie Bob in the mid lane, able to buffer the Justice Punch, looking to hold down onto Serenok. Gets a good amount of chip damage, but it's all to set up this dragon that has now respawned.
I mean, they got the flash. That's all you want, right? Robbie Bob, any trade where you take down Syndra's flash is worth it. Again, the Bouncy House comp with the Sejuani Galio could be very deadly towards the side of COGs that are going to try and navigate this second dragon. Shaden is only level 7, but that's some good poking out of mobility.
Robbie, watch for Robbie. Robbie onto Plux, gets him, and Smoothie will land the missiles. Robbie still in that front line, still getting the crowd control. The ultimate burn from NXI to hold down as Shaden tears apart Bajani alongside Soul, gets a double kill with the hook shot. He knows how to pilot this Viego.
Guys, sometimes it's the little things with these champions. I pointed out yesterday when Comfy had a brilliant Akali play game 1 where he passed up a free kill to get 3 more. Shaden, he didn't take the soul from Ashe when Ashe went down. He passed up on it to stay as Viego, knowing that he is stronger as an individual piece, and he can use that Ashe soul to get out of other things later. By passing that up, he destroys this fight with EG as mobility, a great piercing arrow to start off. Love Robbie Bob making the call here as Shaden gets a freebie. And then from here, no Ashe soul, right? Just keep on fighting. Soul is here. You can stack up all the Permafrost stacks in the world. Why swap to the Ashe when you have that available? And then the nice little hook shot at the end to make sure that things wrap up, squeeze it in the W2. Really well done from Shaden, man. Love watching this guy play. EG was the org he was originally going to be on. Good to see him back as EG feels like they've got something special, and Shaden keeps on proving that EG could be right.
One of those big prospects showing up at the start of NACL. Great it was, knows how to play the Viego, and more importantly, knows how to utilize the champions you take away on the Viego whenever you do claim those souls. EGC now going to have a strong lead as they get a 2K in front of CLG Faith. CLG Faith struggling to find where they're going to play on this map. I was hoping for bigger things out of Bajani over on this top side when he did lock in this Camille, but CLG Faith, they still have to find where they're going to play from.
And Bajani was under siege and dealt with it pretty well. So you can't really blame him when NXI is pathing bot. The good news for CLG, Syndra scaling is insane after the Syndra changes. And also NXI does have access to Red Cane now. So much, much more useful in the front line and hoping to try and slow down what Shaden wants to do on this Viego. But again, Shaden is off to the races and okay. No cancel found.
Johnny almost getting caught out. NXI might look for the engage right here. Going on to Shaden. Gets a knock up onto Shaden. Deadly Flourish doesn't land. Ultimatum comes out. Shaden fighting it out with Bajani. Also has the ultimate of NXI to deal with as NXI re-jumps in. Robbie Bob holding the line of CLGF, not allowing them to join the fight. And now the walls are broken. EG going forward and CLG flash away. They don't want this fight, but man, they cannot walk away. The Rift Herald is still there. They'll try and poke it out. Soul brings a lot of tankiness. Scatter the lands on the Smoothie. Smoothie runs low. Plux goes for the auto. Gets it onto Smoothie. And now EGC down a member. Down 2 as Soul falls in the process. CLG Faith will get a team fight win against Evil Geniuses.
Shaden, no more ultimate. They can't make the play, and this is what COG Faith wants to do. The Syndra, the Jhin, the Ashe. There is so much range and peeling in the kits of these champions where if the engage doesn't hit to start, things can go sideways. And EG, I gotta say, very important. They were fighting without Galio ult here from Robbie Bob. So no grand entrance as Robbie Bob short dashes into a bunch of damage, gets chain CC'd nicely. Wasn't able to proc the Aftershock until after he threw the Everfrost. He trades out for NXI, but then on the back half, this is a front to back without Galio. Galio is kind of what keeps this team fight together for EG. So it's split. They're thinking about still taking this Rift Herald. Shaden doesn't have access to the ultimate anymore. And, I mean, just peeling away. It's Ashe W's and Syndra scatters. It's so tough for EG to deal with that their engage isn't sound. EG can't get anything else. Well played from CLG Faith.
Plux just walks on in. Serenok setting up that crowd control. So familiar on the Syndra, but it's enough for CLG Faith to take the tail half of that, secure Shelly, and show that they got some fight coming for them. But now looking for Serenok, they want some vengeance on to the old Bay State mid laner, and they'll score it. Shaden goes unstoppable.
Well done. 2 ults do go wide, but it still is going to be good stuff here for EG. Is now Robbie Bob. Oh, nice from Sketch.
Ooh, and a chain of crowd control. Chad Crystal Arrow as well as the Deadly Flourish. Curtain call going to be opened up. Robbie Bob, you got to put on them dancing shoes. Can't dance well enough. Sketch will take the kill.
Love that W from Sketch as he just predicted the end of the Galio E. Why they were able to pick up that kill, making it look rather clean, is Sketch 4-0-1. Someone again that we said he only had 3 days to practice marksman after the weight change for CLG Faith. Taking away that Jhin. Looking good for him in this one.
Sketch dreams on the Jhin. So far, so good. 4-0-1 and has a 1k lead against his opponent in mobility. I enjoy that. It's a place to play from for CLG Faith with those last fights, with the way they've been going. I do want to give a lot of credit to Serenok, who has been positioning well for these picks, for these Scatter the Weeks, to make sure that CLG aren't just going to fall by the wayside and succumb to the power of Shaden.
Yeah, like the plan for CLG Faith here, utilize the range, right? Make sure that you are able to absorb the initial engage, and then use the range, the peel that you have from the Cinder, the Ash, the Jhin to try and survive the onslaught from EG. Whereas EG, they got to make sure that these initial engages connect. Because some of these arrows and Glacier Prisons going a little bit wide, and that does make things really tough for EG to get Shaden going.
Now the contest on the Drake set up by EGC. They'll be the first ones into the river right now. CLGF, they just got to back out of the river. They can't hold the line, and vision control going over to Evil Geniuses.
This is the stronger team right now in EG, and again, CLG Faith. If they don't have control over the terrain first, it is a lot harder for them to overtake it. Again, you want to use the poke as Bejani looking for a nice flank here on Camille. And NXI, he's behind EG, so CLG Faith trying to find the angles here, but look at Plex, look at Serenok. They're already kind of low from these Varus arrows.
A little bit tricky right here. Robbie Bob does have the heroic entrance. Justice Punch gets a knockup on NXI. NXI trying to get away. Camille getting in with the ultimatum. 1-for-1 trade. Still going forward. It's going to be Evil Geniuses. And Shaden will tear apart the backline with a triple kill for the Geniuses.
Oh my goodness, it's just another Viego comp, guys. Give Shaden his champion and let this guy cook. He is so good, going legendary already in this game. As Shaden Empowered takes over the fight. I love the front line they're building around these Viegos. As Shaden knows how to play this champion, and man, he's doing work.
He's doing fantastic. Traded for Tomio. They had a roster built around him in Evil Geniuses, and you can clearly see why, Cubby.
A good move here from Mobility. He flashes away, and then also hits a great chain of corruption on the NXI to make sure that the first kill does go over to Shaden. This fight wasn't even perfect, right? If Robbie Bob holds this ultimate, it might be a clean wipe here for the side of EG, but Shaden, again, once he gets that first reset, what he can do on this Viego in these fights, man. It's not like Viego's the meta jungler right now, right? This is just Shaden being better than everyone else.
This is just Shaden being Shaden. Hot prospect from last year for a big reason, and showing up on the Rift right now on this Viego. 8-0-2. What a great start coming out for EGC in this game number 1, but they still got more they need to do, and they're getting to work right now as they start up a wave for the mid lane and look to drive in vision control.
They're also hunting on the Syndra. As you can see, Shaden actually wrapping around. Serenok, he's stiffening out a little bit, but if he shows on this wave, he dies, as Shaden will now be spotted by control wards, so Serenok knows he cannot show. That ward is still up, will not be found, but still, Shaden is legendary, man. If it's the first kill, the reset goes over to him, there is a problem, and I gotta say again, I really like some of the meta reads from a couple of our teams here. Is it feels like one for wildcard, right? Playing the bouncy house comps into stuff like Zeri Lucian, that works in the team fights. This is another one where if every bot lane is trying to play Ashe Varus, that's a squishy duo. Like, you can go in on Viego and get a lot of stuff done. That's kind of the read that EG has with their pieces, and I think it's really paying off. I think some of the counter meta reads we've seen at NACL have been successful.
And Shaden leading the charge. With so much gold picked up, I mean, you got the Dead Man's Play, you even got some magic resist on top of that, so Shaden can do that with the Divine Sunder completed, still bring the damage for these fights. I mean, it's been big so far for Evil Geniuses. 3k lead, 21 minutes on to the timer at the moment. Soul gonna catch this wave in the bottom lane as CLG Faith, they try and find their next place to play from. They still have a 4-0-2 Jhin and Serenok's picks.
Yeah, I think that, again, it's just all about that front to back. I don't even know if, like, those angles are that great for COG Faith onto EG. I think they have to just stay stacked and try and chunk down whatever members they find with these scatters or with a Deadly Flourish from Sketch. I think that ways that you can proc like Jin W, I think that's really what COG Faith should play for instead of trying to find angles.
Yeah.
Flanking on Galio is so difficult just because if you jump into him, Galio just holds W and Shading gets a reset, you know?
And those Deadly Flourish, it being just regular skill, not an ultimate like the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, means better to keep throwing those out to try and secure those picks in. Soul and Bajani going to trade out over here. Soul has backup coming around the corner. Shaden showing up. Bajani trying to get out of here. It's going to take a hell of a play to get the better of this one. Ultimate comes out from Soul, and Bajani will fall to be victim number 9 for Shaden.
No Baron can be taken or hit. Again, that is something that Jin doesn't do that well, especially with this Hydra in his inventory. So I love the read from EG. Just more free fodder going over to Shaden as he continues to stack up the kills, man. He's Legendary Plus now.
Shaden's upgraded. Whole different level Shaden's been playing on. Since the season started, Shaden's been playing incredibly well, even with the sub-roster. And it feels like the sub-roster is playing at least to the right points of their strengths. You know, having Robbie Bob be on this peel. And champion Robbie Bob's very, very familiar with from the Sealall days. And it's just set up Shaden. Set up Shaden to do Shaden things.
Much bigger fan of the Galio than Silas for Robbie Bob, I will say. As, again, Robbie Bob, just, you know, trying to make sure that, you know, talking with him before, being a sub, is like, yeah, being a sub, it's not easy. But I've learned a lot, and, you know, he just wants fans to see, hey, I've improved from week 1 to week 2. And, you know, I can continue to improve as a player. As, you know, get last few games here from Robbie Bob. He's got this series and the one tomorrow. Then it is Ryoma time, as Robbie Bob now looking mid.
Itching for it. Scattered Week comes out from Serenok, so I will stop it right there. But the contest is coming out. We got 15 seconds on that team fight timer. Drake number 4 will be hitting the map.
I mean, again, for COG Faith, they have no control over this river, and they don't want to play under the mid wave. So it just means that, like, a lot of this poke can be dodged out from EG, as we see the W's being sidestepped from this Jin. And again, I don't know if the flank is the best strategy here for COG Faith, as you're flanking onto a Galio. It sounds like an easy reset for Viego.
Going to be very high risk. This crowd control needs to land on the money. Try and get it on Shaden. Try and get it onto mobility. Lock him down and take him out, CLG Faith. This is a hard one. 7K remains on the Drake. It does get a reset. Bajani still waiting there in the wings. And again, Robbie Bob will hold that line alongside Soul. Jumping forward, Shaden tries to find Sketch. Doesn't get him. Robbie Bob dropped to half health.
No, this is good. It's how you're supposed to play around Galio. Now you can think.
Oh, onto mobility. Ultimatum's going to be used. Bajani has to back out, though, because Evil Genius is surrounding. Now mobility taking the blast plan away. Secured. CLG Faith will grab the Drake. Shaden still there. Knockup going to be found. Robbie Bob going after Bajani. Over the wall comes Soul, as well as Shaden looking for the first reset. Nice. First kill going to be grabbed, but Unleashed Power gets one right back. Shaden over the wall with the hook shot. Follows through. The young prospect tearing apart CLG Faith. Getting another reset with a deadly flourish. Smoothie will clean up the next kill as Shaden walks right through the wall, stealing the form of NXI. Wants to steal the soul of Plux.
Good sidestep from Plux. That saves him. But again, the Galio, the hold this time from Robbie Bob. That's what makes that fight so much better for the side of EG. As again, it is one reset for Shaden. That is all EGC needs. And because Smite's off the table, they feel comfortable enough to start up this Baron.
Easy Baron take right now.
I don't know. Hold on.
You don't think it's easy?
No.
Oh, health bars are low. You're right. You're so right now. Scatter of the week. Nice sidestep from mobility. It's not enough. Still one going to fall. Teleport coming out.
It's matched. Soul is here. You can see Bajani's looking. I think the Baron goes over to them, but how much can Bajani get?
Oh, onto Serenok. Bajani still looking to go in. Smite should secure it right now.
Okay.
CLG Faith back out.
Okay, that's enough. They aren't able to get anything else, so it really is only mobility falling. Not at all bad for EGC, as again, Shaden, these fights, I gotta say, the poke against the Galio, much better that time around, while it was a closer fight for CLG Faith. Because again, Robbie Bob, he's at half health, so now when Bajani goes in, he's actually able to find a good target, uses his ultimate to dodge out of the taunt, chunks out mobility, and is able to get out with nothing. That's really well done from Bajani, but then on the flip side, this time around, Camille doesn't have access to flash or ult. So when Robbie Bob connects on a Camille, everything is fired on Bejani. Shaden gets the first reset, and then it's all Shaden from here. Look at these mechanics. Holding out on the Camille E. I mean, you would have think that Shaden was a top laner, Camille main playing that one out. That is just textbook stuff.
That is actual good Camille play from Shaden, the jungler playing Viego. Just beautiful resets. And Robbie Bob, all the credit in the world to the way Robbie Bob's been playing a lot of these team fights. If you see Robbie Bob, it's just about being that wall and holding the line until EGC can get their opportunity for Shaden to do his work.
Diving into Galio is not easy. Kayn likes that, right? Like Red Kane's very valuable against this front line that EG has, but again, because you're behind a CLG Faith, if EG get that first kill, it's just Shaden on cruise control. And Shaden's build, like the Sunder and then the tank items, it's just meant to find that first reset for him to take over from there.
Taking Bejani's form, taking the Camille form, that is when I'm the most afraid for CLG Faith. Because I am shocked at how good Shaden looks on the, just having the Camille abilities. As you were saying, it very much looks like a top laner over there. Now EGC working across the map, being very surgical. So they start to take down towers, both in the top lane, now sieging mid.
That is the fun part about Viego play, is that you get to find out like how mechanically good everyone is at a Smoothie. Oh, that's a... Okay, goes sideways, but oh, it's good.
Yeah, even with the miss, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You got too much engage coming out for EGC. They'll wipe away Plucks. Sieging on to the mid lane tower. Curtain call going to be opened up. Fourth shot waiting to go through. It lands on a Smoothie, who's at full health. Doesn't mind taking that shot. Inhibitor going to go down as Evil Geniuses. They're starting the closing moments.
I think Shaden's Viego yesterday was 11-0-7. This one's 10-0-5, so that's an above 30 KDA in this champion. That's not that bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad. He might have thrown one at the Nexus later, just to, like, you know, put a one on the board, but oh, hold on, Robbie Bob's too deep.
Ooh, Robbie getting a little bit spicy with this engage. Will be forced to flash out, but the rest of EGC can help out with the situation. Bejani taking out Robbie fast enough. There's the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, lands onto Smoothie. Smoothie, not long for this world, gets dropped by NXI. The rest of EGC now on Reteed, but Bejani and NXI want a little bit more. NXI gonna second guess that one as they will back off. 2 picks gonna be landed.
Big mistake, though, from Robbie Bob going in there. No reason to push that, especially given the timer on the Dragon, as each team is at 1 Dragon apiece. It will be a later reset from EG, and they are now down members. So we will see if CLG Faith are able to get this upcoming Dragon. Mountain Dragons are really good for them. It makes it harder for Shaden to reset.
Headed over there will be Plucks, but everyone else, they need a reset. They need to get fresh off that respawn, and
still have numbers.
Ooh, this is not the most timely of setups coming out from the side of CLG Faith. They're going to need those numbers, and they're going to need that vision established soon. A teleport already coming out of Robbie Bob, so the numbers game not going to be on their side for long.
The pet got blue buff. They're trying to give it over to mobility, so they get more Varus views. And the shield actually removed from mobility. Robbie Bob is a really nice Galio angle here, as him and Soul are playing bodyguard, and CLG Faith, they're a little bit scared. But here comes the setup.
You have this terrifying gargoyle, you know, Bristle the Boar waiting to hop onto you. NXI looking for the steal, not going to get it through the wall, secured by Shaden. But EG, they want the fight. Going forward onto NXI, double knock-up going to be found, but holding the line is going to be CLG Faith coming out from the flanks. Benjani will go golden, trying to buy time. 4 members surround him, flashing away. NXI on the sidelines, now focusing on the Robbie Bob, who dodges out from the Unleashed Power with the Hourglass. Knock-up going to be found. Serenok gets one through. Can CLG Faith continue their momentum forward? They find Soul. Can they stop Shaden? Shaden goes golden, low, NXI, 2 sweeps through. EGC are falling. Mobility, the last survivor, but CLG, they will bide their time. They will deliver the poke, and they will get the team fight ace against EGC.
No Galio ult for Robbie Bob. If you're able to focus down the Galio, chunk him out, that's a huge part of the fight. How Shaden get his first reset as CLG, they buy their time wonderfully there. Make sure that it's a big scatter from Serenok, and that front to back, very, very beneficial for them with only Bejani flanking.
A good attempt out of NXI to try and get the steal, but the more important part was the follow-up coming out from CLG, using that poke, using everything they had to get chip damage in, and it lands flush in the most critical of times.
Yeah, committing on the NXI, I think, was a little bit of a mistake, but it's a huge stopwatch from Bejani. That's what actually opens up the rest of this fight in favor of CLG, as Bejani baits perfectly. Robbie gets chunked out during that time and taken down before he can press R. So Serenak on the Syndra again, the later stage of the game, fighting this front to back, much more favorable for the side of CLG Faith as things work out for him there. No soul available for Shaden, despite Bejani falling down as he was still stuck due to Serenak, and CLG Faith making this game interesting.
I was maximizing the health bars right there. So many blinking red health bars from CLG Faith on the tail end of that fight. But that is a sign of a team fight fought well for CLG Faith. That's step number one, though. We still got a few more steps to get through before you get that gold lead and start turning this around. But they're not too far off right now. NXI potentially looking for something more onto Robbie-Bob. Knock up on the Robbie-Bob. Serenak and NXI collapsing onto Robbie-Bob, who will take the heroic entrance. It's too late. It will be an exit instead from the next future fight.
All right, that was kind of interesting as Serenak, I guess, that alt travels, gets the execute, is now NXI. He's looking. Again, Galio is a really big part of the composition for EG. It's what helps them execute their fights initially. So with Robbie off the map, it looks like it's going to be EGC resetting. Okay. That's fine. We can fire off a lot of those now. As again, the COG, I mean, they have scaling elements. Like this support Ashe, even with Mikhail's, like the W's, the slows, they scale throughout the game. The arrows are really annoying for EG to deal with. And the big one right now is Serenak on this Syndra. Once that death cap is completed, gotta believe that Serenak has that bonus AP from the passive, and Syndra just could be too much for EGC to handle.
And after 33 minutes of combat, 33 minutes of the Shaden show, the gold lead has almost completely diminished. Just 500 gold away. It's CLG Faith right there. They're fighting back in the tail end of this. A lot of their tools now coming online. And EGC, they still have control of the map. They're still the ones deciding where these plays are going to take place. But for CLG, at least what they're bringing for these team fights is showing a lot of life, and they're so close to that turning point.
They're just going to try and slam Baron and try and force CLG into them, as it's pretty low. Oh, the arrow goes wide.
NXI melted. NXI gets the Baron still. Now CLG look for the fight. Bejani, after mobility, will cut him down. And Shaden, he's been the hero all game, baby, but he can't pull it out against the numbers and authority of CLG Faith. Caught by the golems. Bejani will chase him down. Hook shot goes through, and Shaden will fall. CLG Faith are bringing it from the depths.
Uh-oh, hold on. We didn't time up the GA. Nice sidestep, but no. Bejani able to find it. That could be game. Everyone's down for EG. It's 22 seconds on mobility.
Soul, only one standing right now. You're going to get Smoothie in a second. Smoothie and Soul, these aren't your fighters. These aren't your defenders. They can hold the front line. They can bring in the utility, but can they bring damage? Answer is going to be a big no. You need more. Ashe Arrow goes wide. First Nexus tower goes down. Smoothie holding on to it. Going to put on a new tower. Cutting the wave is going to be Soul. Now another one coming off the respawn is going to be Mobility. Gets a chain of corruptions onto NXI. NXI goes down. Soul going forward. Looking for the stun on the plucks. Sketch caught out. Sketch gets dropped. Smoothie able to take him in. Plucks the last one to stand. Realizing that this game is far from over. The ace for Evil Geniuses Challengers.
All right, we're in certified LCS Challengers League status as, guess what? That could be Mountain Soul now for Evil Geniuses Challengers. They're going to push down mid, but I don't think they want the dragon either. I think they want the game.
No way. Oh, they have the Death Timers to make it happen. They're racing right through the mid lane. A war. CLG Faith trying so hard to fight from behind. And they're right there. They were right on the door, but EGC think they can close this out.
I don't know. Bejani's up in 10. NXI's up in 10. This is a little bit risky.
All right, here we go. Is it going to be the same mistake?
Oh, Demolish. Wait, no,
tower goes down. It is done.
Demolish is so huge. Oh my goodness, the double Demolish. That's it. What a banger. 44 kills, Desarux. EG, Shaden's Viego, it remains undefeated, remains the problem. And CLG, they had a good game plan. Like, they actually problem solved that comp pretty well throughout the game. They figured out, like, hey, if we just stymie the Galio, that takes away, like, what really brings this comp together for EGC. This wasn't enough. They went for the end. They tried to steal the game, and instead, EG got it for themselves.
So many close moments right there. Saranok with the scatter the weeks on the very, very critical targets, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, man, after this war, EGC are able to show up in Shaden still being that highlight prospect. We're going to take a second to throw it over to a break. After all that hype, we'll have Sierra with us for our halftime segment.